Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining me. Guys, just before we start this video, I want to let you know this is going to be a funny one. This is the third time I did this video because the first two times it got really dark and I just thought I cannot put that on my channel. You know, I don't have nearly enough subscribers yet, so I think I may leave the dark version for a little bit later when I've got more followers, more subscribers and more of a reach. But basically, somebody asked me in the comments, and thank you for your comments. Somebody asked me, how do we get long-term peace? And the rabbit hole I actually went down to find out how we get long-term peace, it was kind of enlightening. I came up with some, I came to some really big revelations. Anyway, so what I want to talk about is how I see these global conflicts. I don't see an end to them. Ultimately, we have eyes in front of our heads. We are apex predators. We are explorers, engineers, pioneers. We are meant for conflict. We're meant for innovation. We're meant for moving forwards. If we wasn't, then we would all be still lazing under the apple tree, in loincloths, eating apples. But the reality is, it's our drive and our desire to make things better, and again, as sad as it is to say it, to conquer. It's that drive and that desire that makes us, our technology develop, it makes things move forwards and it advances us as a people, although it doesn't seem like it at times. So with that in mind then, guys, I thought before I start this video, I thought I'd just give a little bit more of my background. So when I left the army, one of the things I wanted to do is get into the space industry. So my company, we developed basically a high elevation launch platform. It was basically a way to launch smaller rockets on a high altitude balloon. Basically, they're called rockoons. There's lots of people doing them. There's no new technology there. There's no patentable technology. But what we did basically, we wanted to have a launch platform because back then, like 2016, 2017 time, around that area, people, the military, they were going to industry and they were saying, look, we have a problem with our GPS signals. The satellites are big. They're in geostationary orbit. That means relative to the Earth, they're in the same position. They're big, they're in geostationary orbit, and any of our adversaries can shoot them down, and then we don't have any satellites or any GPS or communications. So the industry response was, it was right. What you need to do, you need to launch a lot of smaller satellites that are easily replaceable, cheaper, and if something happens to one of them, you've got a lot more backup for redundancy, and also with them being smaller, they're easier to launch. So that's kind of the niche we were trying to get into. Obviously, a couple of years after that, Elon Musk launched this Starlink for low latency Wi-Fi. Again, I've done videos on this, guys. It's not for low latency Wi-Fi. It's for US military. It's for US military backup GPS signal, US military communication system. And of course, the Chinese, they're working on their own system called the G60. I did a video about that, I think yesterday or something. So that's one of the things we developed. As we were developing that, it starts to open doors for you, and you start to communicate with people and, get into meetings with other people. We started working with the Sheffield University, who are developing they were developing a really thin solar device. It's not a solar paint, but it is a solar paint to the layman. It's a series of coatings, atomically bonded, and then that gives you a really thin, lightweight solar device. So our work towards was to, just totally cover a drone with that, and then that would be a high altitude drone, being able to do a lot of the tasks that satellites in low Earth orbit can do. Now, the advantage with having a drone and a propeller that's solar powered would be you can bring it down for refurbishment, troubleshooting, upgrades, all sorts of stuff you just can't do with a satellite. And don't forget, once a satellite's in space, eventually that will become space junk. So, you know, our high altitude, what was it called? HALE, high altitude long endurance aircraft. That was kind of the main effort that we was pushing forwards with, to move into this space with the communications, you know, operating in satellite denied areas, and a whole host of things for communications, for GPS, you know, there's lots of stuff. Basically what a satellite could do, our HALE could do as well, with a lot, it was a lot cheaper. Then we had COVID, we had the fallout from Brexit, we had a whole host of stuff. So, I mean, the project itself, what I realised is, nobody cares about how good a project is. All people care about is how much money they can make from it. And that kind of, you know, leads us into the talk of today. You know, how do we stop wars? So when I talk about these guys, you know, these things, I think I needed to just quickly caveat that to, you know, to show you guys that I do have some understanding of what these things are, you know, how they work, what we're talking about. So the next thing we wanted to build was going to be an astronaut recovery system, because the way that astronauts are recovered at the moment, it's absolutely archaic. They literally fire a pod back and they do something called, I think it's atmospheric braking. They literally use the friction of the earth to slow it down. It's a terrible design, you know. What I wanted to do is I wanted to have some sort of craft that would come down. It would use rocket thrusters to slow it down to a relatively safe entry speed. That entry speed then would fly it back to the location. It's pretty much like these glide bombs that the Russians are using. So there you've got the crossover. So how do we stop wars then? Well, first of all, we need to understand, you know, why do we have wars in the first place? Well, you know, and this is where my original, where a couple of my other talks got a little bit dark. First of all, most wars are fought, well, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to say all wars are fought over resources in some way. So what's happening in Ukraine? So resources in Ukraine, you've got huge deposits of coal, huge deposits of uranium, you've got huge deposits of gas. I think with the correct investment, Ukraine could be the world's #1 gas producer. And it's interesting that the Biden, allegedly, Hunter Biden went out there and he bought a load of gas fields with his dad's money. Now, I don't know if that's true. Go look at that online. You know, that's all there, open source. I don't know if that's happened. I've got no inside information of that myself. But that's the word on the street. Anyway, so I guess these can be, you know, encapsulated into money and energy. So, you know, and people are making money out of these wars at every level. There's no level on these wars where people are not making money. And it's not what you think, you know, it's not like people are making ridiculous amounts of money. That's the energy companies. You know, at every level of these military industrial complex companies, there are people getting paid really good salaries, but that's not counted as profit, that's counted as salaries. And this kind of segues into the video I'm going to do on the military industrial complex. So at every level then, guys, on these wars, people are making money. So that is the reality there, guys. It's the human factor. People want to make money. People want a better life for themselves and their children. That is the reality. So how do we stop this? How do we move forwards and stop people, you know, hurting each other on Earth? Well, there's an asteroid out there called Eros, 433 Eros, that's its designation. You can go and check this up. There's estimated to be $1 trillion worth of gold alone on that asteroid. That's just gold. There's obviously other minerals on there. Now, this is called an easily recoverable object. So basically, it's easily recoverable. Now, if humanity as a group said, you know what, we're going to start taking these asteroids, we're going to start mining them, we're going to start building space infrastructure, we're going to start putting people on the moon, we're going to start putting people on different planets, we would stop wars pretty much overnight, because there'd be no profit in the wars. There'd be no money to be made in the wars relative to going into space and mining these asteroids. You go look at the, and then of course, yes, there would be space wars, but I think fighting a war in space with drones and stuff would be a lot more, it would be a lot better than, you know, hundreds of thousands of young men dying every couple of years because, you know, somebody wants resources in another country. So rather than fight on Earth, we should compete for those resources in space. Guys, this is a short one today. It's a little bit of a weird one. I'm going to give you my two normal updates on, you know, on the war in Ukraine, how things are moving forwards, UK politics, and, you know, the whole sham as I see it. But basically, guys, I just thought I'd get this video out there. It's a little bit off topic. I understand that, so I'm not sure my audience, you guys would, you know, appreciate it. But let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. Do you want more deeper depth videos into stuff like this, into space, into technology? Because that's kind of where I do have an expertise as well. I do have good knowledge of these things, and you know, it's kind of why I can pick fault at the military-industrial complex and say, look, guys, what you're doing is wrong because of X, Y, and Z. Your technology is not up to standard. Technology is moving too fast for your weapons development. That's why I can say that straight away. And you know, I don't need to pause when I'm saying these things. I don't need to look at notes. I can just push them out there. So in a nutshell, guys, keep it short, keep it sweet. How do we stop wars on Earth? We colonize space. Simple. Let people make money in space rather than money from wars. And that's it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you again later. Thank you.